I love that you're not about pain-based marketing.
Yeah.
We are definitely in the minority here.
Yeah, totally.
And
I've had so
people,
many people say it just doesn't work. And I'm like, it does work.
yeah, it does. I mean, if you think about it, there have been massive movements created from hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a
Totally.
very powerful emotion.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's
so
what
to
you call it, right? You call it hope.
hope
What do you
selling,
call it? Hope
hope
selling.
selling.
Yeah. I'm like, I love it. Yeah.
And it's with authoritative empathy. So basically, like, we're going to acknowledge where you are because I need it for context.
Yep.
Like, what's the challenge? What have you
Totally.
done? I totally, I
Yeah.
see
You got
that
to
you,
understand that, right?
yeah, and
Yeah.
acknowledge, like, I understand where you've been. Like, that's happens a lot.
Yeah.
And these are the things that you just need a couple of extra things, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can get you to the other side of that. And I am so excited for you because you have put in a lot of work up to this point. And that says a lot that you're not giving up because a lot of people would. And you're continuing on. And as a result, those are the people that get the best results with me or whatever. Obviously, I'm using something kind of generic here, but essentially that's the message that like
Yeah.
it's about to be so much better and I can't wait.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that so much. And if you think about yourself, I mean, for me, I know I've never invested in my business from a scarcity point of view or from uh, a pain point of view. It's always been for what else is possible. I've always looked at it through that lens for myself.
Kimmy makes such a very important point that pain selling only works on a certain type of person. And it is definitely about your target audience too. A lot of people don't want the type of person who is sold by pain because they come in fear and
Yeah.
desperation and scarcity and are like, well, what are you going to do for me? Because you told me that I'm going to end up homeless and divorced if I don't, do this. So come on, fix it for
Yeah.
me.
Hello, my extraordinary women friends. Welcome to another inspiring episode of Extraordinary Women Radio. To kick off today, I want to shout out a big thank you to all our listeners because Extraordinary Women Radio was just named to the top 1.5% of podcasts out of 3.3 million podcasts globally as ranked by Listen Score. That was such a beautiful surprise. And what an honor to have so many loyal listeners. Thank you for all of you for listening, for tuning in, for your great reviews that you write. Thank you so much. And we're going to keep delivering here. Here at Extraordinary Women Radio, we love to dive deep into the strategies and stories that empower women entrepreneurs to elevate their voice, enhance their visibility, and grow businesses so that they don't just thrive, but also bring joy and abundance into their lives. In my Soul Plus Strategy Mastermind, I've had the privilege of guiding hundreds of women entrepreneurs on their journey to achieving more time prosperity and financial success, crafting businesses that are aligned with who they are, helping them shine and embody their light and their message. Today, we are joined by an exceptional guest who embodies the spirit of authentic growth and success, Aleasha Bahr. Aleasha is a renowned sales strategist, a speaker, a best-selling author, and the founder of the Black Sheep Sales Method. I like that title, don't you? Her innovative approach to sales, emphasizing that if it's a fit, it's a fact, and there's no selling involved, has revolutionized how entrepreneurs engage with their clients. With 15 years of experience, Aleasha customizes sales strategies to fit your personality, your audience, and your service, proving that sales success comes from authenticity, not pressure or pitches. Her methods have empowered business owners to effortlessly convert up to 80% of their leads without compromising their integrity. Having personally sold over $50 million in services and helped others sell an impressive $17.5 million in the last 4 years alone, Aleasha's approach to sales is both proven and powerful. Today, Aleasha will dispel common sales misconceptions and introduce us to the power of hope-based selling, moving beyond traditional pain points to connect with clients' desires. You know, I love that. She will share actionable tips for refining your sales approach, enhancing visibility, and deepening your audience engagement for greater business growth and fulfillment. So whether you're looking to refine your sales strategy, elevate your business, or simply learn from one of the best in the industry, this episode is packed with invaluable lessons, strategies, and inspirations to help you achieve more with less effort and more alignment. Let's meet Aleasha Bahr.
Well, welcome to Extraordinary Women Radio, Aleasha. It is great to have you here today.
I'm so excited to be here, Cami.
Yeah, as I was digging through all your stuff and planning for this interview, I just was so, in my heart, I was like, we are so aligned in like what we like to talk about and how we look at sales, how we look at marketing. It's like we've got a lot of alignments in this, and it's going to be really fun to dive into this with you today.
I agree. It's so refreshing to find people who feel that way too, because we are the minority.
Yeah. There's a lot of other people out there telling you how you should do things in very linear ways, and yeah, I think your approach really speaks to my heart. And there was something you said is that I want to inspire women to let their black sheep show in a way that creates an amazing world for them and everyone around them. And I'm like, yes, it's like letting their unique light of who they are out in the world and be seen, be heard, and really connect in a different way.
Yeah, when somebody's light shines bright, it makes my light shine brighter.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. And it's you how did you come across this black sheep? What is a black sheep method? And how did you come across it and create it?
Well, so it's been an evolution. I was always a natural salesperson when I sold in corporate. And once I started seeing what the options were for people, for people selling their own services to learn how to sell, it was like real rough out there. Like the stuff is extremely uncomfortable and honestly not very effective. So over 5 years, I've really dialed in what it means to sell like a natural. And it is, if you ask somebody who's naturally good at sales, like, how do you do it? They say, well, I don't really sell. And you're like, well, what the hell does that mean? And it's because they're fitting. So they're actually letting someone know, you don't need this option. Actually, I think that you need this other thing that's over here. So I would go there first and then come over here. Or like, you don't need the thing with the bells and whistles. You can just work with this like middle tier option. And that's going to give you everything that you need. And so it leads them to say that they're not selling because they're fitting and letting someone know when it's not a fit.
Yeah. And that's really wise because that really builds trust, right? That builds the trust of this person is not just here to sell me everything, but to really hear where I'm at and feel where I'm at.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing that's going to build trust like that. So they'll either start trying to buy from you, like, please let me buy from you. They'll refer you. They'll come back later just because it's such a rare experience to have somebody actually have your best interests in mind in the sales process.
Yeah. So when you're talking about black sheep, what do you mean about that?
Oh, yeah. So I've always been a black sheep. I look a certain kind of way, and people assume that I will act a certain kind of way based on how I look. And then I open my mouth, and I'm too direct. I'm too bold. I'm too blunt. I'm too whatever. And for a long time, I listened to people to make me,
smaller. Smaller.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Like maybe I am too much of something. And the moment that I started leaning into those things, that's when everything changed for me. And I've always struggled with how to define my client. So when I first came out with this sales approach, I called it the secret art of subtle selling, which is like not really, it's okay. And then I was for introverts because they're a sales pattern interrupt and they thrive really well with this kind of approach. But a lot of people don't realize that they're introverts because they think it's about being shy or outgoing, and it has nothing to do with that. And so then I was the matchmaker sales method, which is closer, but just not quite. And so I was talking to some clients about how I'm the black sheep of my family, and I'm just over it being a negative thing. Because if it means that they said fall in line and I didn't, then I'm going to say that that's not negative. That's a positive.
Right, that's a good thing. Mm-hmm.
And they were like, yeah, I'm the black sheep in my family too. And the next client I talked to that week was like, I'm the black sheep in my family too. And then the next client I talked to was like,
you hit on a point there.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I look back at my life, all my favorite people have been black sheep in one way or another. Like they're a little eccentric, or they're a character, or they approach something different, or they see something different, or they have a different kind of idea that nobody's saying or talking about. Like that's the stuff I love. And I love to celebrate it and make it louder. So I'm like, all the people who feel like they just don't fit in mainstream, I just want to make them realize that that's a good thing. And we need more of it in the world. They're the cause for innovation and inspiration and progress. And it makes me so sad to think of like the brilliance that has been kept from this world, from the people who listened and like sat down and were quiet instead of speaking up and being even louder.
Yeah. And when you think about the black sheep and stepping our black sheep into ourselves effort, there's this ability to just be who we are.
And it's beautiful. Like I love when people show up very much them, even if it's like not clothes I would ever wear, or I would never dye my hair that color. I freaking love that you are showing up. I love that you have a mohawk. Rock that mohawk. It's just whatever my weird thing is, then I feel comfortable with it.
Yeah, no, that's so good. And I think that's a really interesting point right there, is that you feel comfortable with it because they're being just true to themselves. And you can notice that. That's how I teach marketing and branding. It's like we start from the inside out. Let's be who you are. Let's dive into this light of who you are and then help you shine your light. And from a marketing perspective, if you're attracting clients into that and you carry that into your sales conversations, you're just going to only get more effective with how you have sales conversations.
Exactly. It's about results. At the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is results and are you having a good time? So what's going to get you the most results is being as true to yourself as possible, because it'll come through in your tone of voice, in your body language, in your micro expressions. You'll naturally say the right things instead of manufacturing this persona that is only designed to get somebody to say yes. What you should act like to be a salesperson or whatever. And
like the words you should use and the just being true connection there.
Totally. And people often are like, oh, what if people don't like me? And it's like, when somebody doesn't like me, I'm like, I probably don't like you. So like, it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, like self-select out, please.
There's plenty of people in our world to be able to work with that. So I love that. Yeah. So you mentioned introverts. And so I'm an introvert.
Me too, Kimmy. Me too.
Yeah. And people are often surprised about that because, I love community. I love to, be in circle with women and be in community. It lights me up. And then I need to go recover somewhere else after that. Or, we were just talking about my Ignite conference and how much I love my Ignite conference. I go away for the month the month afterwards. I am like off in my own little world because I've had just so much connection that way. But why do introverts often make the best salespeople? I love this question.
Yeah. So introverts come with a couple of natural gifts that are really great for sales. And the other reason, I'll explain the gifts, but also is that they're a pattern interrupt. So everybody has an expectation of somebody who's selling them something, that they're going to be this charming, smooth, extroverted person. And so they naturally trust them a little less when they're like that. So when someone's like a little quieter, like I worked with a girl who was so quiet, always listening, sales ninja. No one expected her to be selling something. They just trusted her more because she was so different, so soft-spoken and, mild-mannered and stuff. Not that all introverts are like that, but as an example. And the natural gifts that introverts have are, this is my theory why we're so drained, is we are so concerned with the other person's experience in a conversation. We're like hyper aware of if they're having a good time, if it's resonating, adjusting, things like that are really helpful for a sales conversation. And they're naturally
good listeners.
They're very good listeners and they're very curious naturally. Now, extroverts can be too, but the typical extrovert will be like, well, I'm having a good time, so you're having a good time, right? We're all having a good time. And like, they're totally, can miss a lot of social cues.
Yeah.
Uh,
So working
yeah.
with your clients who are extroverts, how do you help them, like kind of just drop into some of these different?
I mean, a lot of it is asking the right questions that are going to naturally trigger their expertise. So,
Yeah.
and like if people have a tendency to just because some people are like, I'm just rambling, I don't know how to stop myself. I can give them some anchor phrases that are kind of just like, all that to say, off the top of my head, I really need to dive in and like ask a question or something like
Yeah.
that, like to just
Yeah.
have near them so that they can rest on those and really turn it into a question if possible.
Yeah. I love it. I totally love that. So what are some of the biggest misconceptions about sales that people don't realize actually hurts their results?
Ooh. So, I mean, I think one of the biggest ones is that sales is a numbers game.
I've heard you say this. I love this.
Yeah, and like I understand, yes, to an extent, you can
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, so if I have 10 leads, I close 2. So if I want 4, then I have to have 20. But you can just increase that conversion rate and not need a large volume, especially if you
Mm-hmm.
only need like 25 clients a year or something to be
Mm-hmm.
happy, which is
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people who are
Right.
told that they need to have this massive outreach. And the only time that sales becomes a numbers game is when you treat people like numbers and you can
Yeah.
feel that difference
Yeah. Yeah.
instead of it being like intentional and targeted. So, like, I have a friend who is working with somebody who told her she has to cold call and she dreads it. And they said she has to do it
Oh,
to build resilience. And I'm like,
oh. And she's showing up in that energy of the resistance that she has there when she's doing that.
and most people do. And you know what?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
does build resilience, but it's at the expense of your like self-esteem, your courage, your drive, your motivation. Build resilience other ways, like
Yeah.
join a marathon or something
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I don't think there's any reason to have to experience a ton of that's another misconception. You have to be rejected so many times and
Yeah.
they kind of like fool you into like, well, a no is a good thing to hear because you're that much closer to the yes. And it's like this weird way of
I've heard that
reframing
one.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, why don't we
Yeah.
just talk to the right people and say things that are actually of value to them? And then they work with us. Like, it doesn't have to be this weird thing you
Yeah.
dread.
Yeah. It's interesting because when I teach a lot of my marketing work that I teach, and if you think of a marketing funnel where you see traditional, okay, you have to have, X number of leads at the
Yeah.
top to to get to to get to the bottom results that you're looking for. I've seen that and I've always resisted that model. And, I definitely believe that we have to look at, where we're getting our leads from and, work with that. But I always tell my clients actually to start at the bottom of the funnel because we generally have a community of people around us, relationships that we've built over the years, and just much warmer connections and much warmer relationships that we've got. And I always tell my clients, start there. Really work on the community that's already part of your community and work with the relationships you already have. And then you can start bringing in more educational pieces. So you're moving up the funnel and you're offering value to the clients that you already know. And then once you've got those pieces working, you can start saying, okay, how do I bring people in from the top part of it? Are you getting on stages? Are you, doing guest podcasting? But so often people are also concerned about what's at the top versus what's at the bottom. And so I always tell my clients to flip their marketing on its head when they think of it from that perspective.
I love that so much for many reasons. One is that you're showing them how to do something that's actually going to build confidence as they go
Right.
so that they can
Yeah.
do the harder pieces. And then the other thing is, like, this is something I see all the time. People will give more attention to prospects than clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
Love
kind of
on
what
your clients.
they're so focused on the numbers at the top that they're not looking at like the easiest path to money are the people you already have, know, can
Yeah.
upsell. Like, it's just a classic mistake and it'll just keep you on a never ending hamster wheel if you.
Yeah. 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 No, it's just one of the ways I saw that you and I so align. And then I think the other one that really was jumping out at me was that, is that throwing out the pain-based sales approach. I've been talking about throwing out pain-based marketing for years. It's like, stop rubbing the salt in the wound, and, playing the scarcity games, and, all pain based. Let's talk about what your clients aspire to, what they are, what is possible for them. And so when I saw what you're talking about this around sales, share your wisdom on this part of it.
Yes, I love that you're not about pain-based marketing.
Yeah.
We are definitely in the minority here.
Yeah, totally.
And
I've had so many people say it just doesn't work. And I'm like, it does work.
yeah, it does. I mean, if you think about it, there have been massive movements created from hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Totally.
a very powerful emotion.
Yeah. And that's what you call it, right? You call it hope.
Hope selling.
Hope selling. Yeah. I'm like, I love it. Yeah.
And it's with authoritative empathy. So basically, like, we're going to acknowledge where you are because I need it for context.
Yeah.
Like, what's the challenge?
Totally.
What have you done? I see.
Yeah, you got to understand that, right?
Yeah. And acknowledge, like, I understand where you've been. Like, that's happens a lot. And these are the things that you just need a couple of extra things, basically.
Yeah.
And I can get you to the other side of that. And I am so excited for you because you have put in a lot of work up to this point. And that says a lot that you're not giving up, because a lot of people would, and you're continuing on. And as a result, those are the people that get the best results with me, or whatever. Obviously, I'm using something kind of generic here, but essentially that's the message, that like, it's about to be so much better, and I can't wait.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that so much. And if you think about yourself, I mean, for me, I know I've never invested in my business from a scarcity point of view, or from a pain point of view. It's always been for what else is possible. I've always looked at it through that lens for myself.
Such a very important point that pain selling only works on a certain type of person. And it is definitely about your target audience too. A lot of people don't want the type of person who is sold by pain, because they come in fear and desperation and scarcity, and are like, well, what are you going to do for me? Because you told me that I'm going to end up homeless and divorced if I don't, do this. So come on, fix it for me.
And that's your community you draw then. It changes who you draw into your community. And I think that's a brilliant point, because when I look across my community, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have the most amazing women in my community, because they have a different type of a perspective on life.
Yeah. And it's also like the type of person, because the pain selling, you have to have somebody who will allow someone else to make them feel like they are in so much self-doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in your case, and in my case, or other people's case, you're like, something feels off here. I know that I'm not an idiot. Okay. And you're telling me that I'm hopeless. Like, they like to ask, why are you in this position? And in the hopes of getting you to say, it's because I'm doing it alone and I don't know what I'm doing, because I am lost. I'm a failure, whatever. So that's only going to work on people who would actually admit that.
Exactly. Declare that.
Yeah. So it's definitely like a more passive person a lot of times, who's like, they're not like a real strong-willed person who's going to buy into that message, or they caught them in a really bad time in their life where they were susceptible.
Yeah. 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 No, I think that's a really interesting perspective on that. So what's one thing our listeners can do to up-level their sales, and up-level how they're landing clients in their business? What's something that you would suggest?
I think one of the biggest issues I see is people who sell their deliverables more than the results of their deliverables. So not even features and benefits, but like, a lot of people will be like, well, you'll get this many meetings, and this report, and this analysis, and nobody wants that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They want
nobody's caring about all the details.
They want the results of that thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's easy to assume like they're going to connect the dots, why it's good to have this many meetings. Like they're going to connect the dots, but no, they're not. Just connect it for them. Yeah. And also it kind of puts you in the spot where somebody can compare you to other people based on like, oh, well, they are going to post on 4 platforms and you're only going to post on 3, and da 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 da. You know what I mean? So it's like, really talking about the wrong things. So being able to talk about the result of what you do. So like, you don't sell operations, you sell someone doing their job right from day one.
Yeah. 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 And what they're desiring, what they're stepping into. I love that so much.
Yeah. So a lot of
Yeah.
people are completely missing what they actually sell. And it's like I do workshops on it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it makes a huge difference in people moving forward with you. They can
They're
just,
like, oh, that's what I want.
yeah, like I had a client who did social media coaching. She's like, nobody wants it. And I'm like, you're right. Nobody wants that. But after talking to her and understanding the details of what she does, I was like, you show people how to get predictable inbound leads with only an hour a week on social media.
There you
E-
go.
Everybody wants that.
Yeah,
Everybody was
and that's your
signing.
superpower too, right? Is to be able to have these conversations with somebody and be able to go. It's like be able to point out this is what it is. Let's nail it really well.
Yeah, it's just like a weird superpower that I have where
That's
I can like
great.
understand a lot of paragraphs and then make it just real concise.
Really poignant. I love it. What's the biggest mistake you see people doing when it comes to?
I think that it's talking to people who aren't a fit.
Mm-hmm.
This will crush your confidence.
Yeah.
Because you'll be thinking there's something wrong with you and something wrong with your offer when it just wasn't the right person because of budget, because of time, because of personality,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So like one of the things I really talk about is what do you want to repel as much as you want to attract? And when you're very
Mm-hmm.
clear about who you're repelling, the person you want to attract chooses in even harder.
Yeah.
So like I was talking to a woman about her bookkeeping and she was really upset that everybody was coming in expecting $50 a month service. And I'm like, well, it's because you're calling it bookkeeping. And after talking to her, find out that it's actually like a fractional finance team. Like that sounds much higher value. Let's say that. And then also, like, she's like, I don't have like suits and stuff. Like, we're not super formal people. I'm like, so
Yeah.
say that, like, who
Yeah.
you're not. You're
Yeah.
not this person who just, or like, you're not this person who doesn't trust me to make recommendations too. Like, you just want me to look at your books and give you the report. You can
Yeah.
say those things ahead of time.
Yeah.
And then also in like a form that somebody fills out to book a call, and everybody gets so scared about this. Like, but what if they don't fill out the form? And I'm like, if they can't take 5 minutes to fill out a form, that is not your
Yeah.
ideal
They're not
client.
really. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Such good advice. Such good advice. So what is the biggest lesson that you've had as a CEO of your own company? What's been, you've built
Oh my
a really
gosh.
successful business and you've had, multiple iterations. You talked about a little bit on the up front. What has been your biggest lesson you've learned?
Oh man. I think that the biggest thing about being a CEO that I never realized is how incredibly important your mindset is.
Oh, totally.
Because I have seen so many people absolutely ruin and close businesses because of conspiracy theories that they made up in their head about
Mm,
what was going to happen to them, or they were stupid, or nobody wanted them, or painting the worst case scenarios. And I know it's like we've probably all heard this concept that it's like your primal brain trying to keep you safe
yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff, but like it's crazy how quick your brain will take you down if you
yeah,
don't have like some awareness of it and tools to really identify, well, is that true or not?
yeah, yeah. What's been your best tool that's worked for you?
It's really been leaning into my intuition more and more and more.
I
So
love that.
to me, my intuition is like this feeling that just feels right, almost like in my
Hmm.
gut or something. And
Hmm.
for a long time, I let people tell me something like, that doesn't sound right, but I'll do it anyway. Never works. Never.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So being able to trust that, it just, it works out better for me every time.
yeah. And then to be able to just drop in and say, is this true? Is this, am I really in this space or is this something else? And letting that intuition guide you in new ways.
And so much of it is like, have you ever read The Four Agreements?
Yes, oh, totally. Hmm.
Ah, such a good book.
Yeah.
How he really explains that words are magic and they can be black magic or white magic. And
Mm,
and so to kind of, when somebody says something to you, like, are they trying to put poison in you? And do
yeah,
you want to let that poison into your body,
yeah,
or brain? And like the fact that nothing is personal. So like that person saying something awful, or like I had a friend who recently, this woman who's like really known in the space, called her and told her how stupid she was for this book she was publishing and how it was a terrible
Mm-hmm.
title and nobody cared about her. She called me actually upset, freaking out. And I was like, I don't know what her agenda is, but it has
Yeah.
nothing to do with you. Like
Exactly.
it's triggering something in her, and you have all the data that shows that people love what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And do not let her in your mind. Like do a
Yeah.
meditation, like get that out, whatever, so you can center yourself again, because like it's nothing that has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, that's such good advice. Really good advice. And it is all around us, whether it's, our own mind making up things or it's coming from somewhere else. I mean, there's just so many different ways that words can land in our thoughts. And words do matter. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like the words that we allow to play in our mind matter so much. And that's definitely been one of my biggest, learnings and areas of growth for myself as well. It's just really recognizing how important mindset is for us as entrepreneurs.
It's wild out here.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you can get taken down by absolutely nothing, or
Yeah.
to close the
Yeah.
business because of
Yeah.
like air. Words are
Yeah.
air,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
somebody says something that makes you doubt everything.
Yeah.
And you choose to believe them. And
Yeah.
I think it's just helpful to know that like anybody also understanding, to your point, like why am I having this reaction? More
Yeah.
awareness for like this is triggering that time that this
Yeah.
happened,
Yeah.
and this is different from that situation because of da 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 da. Like being able to like understand the own puzzle pieces in your brain and how they're all
Yeah.
working,
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
introspection.
Totally. Yeah, I love that. And I think the other thing that we can do is wrap community around us, to really have community and support to help, say, that's not true. That is so not true. Just like you did for the woman, for your client.
Yeah. And a lot of people are triggered when you show up powerfully.
Mm-hmm.
And they will try to make you feel small, or they'll try to
Mm-hmm.
make you doubt yourself, and it has nothing to do with you. So really surrounding yourself with a community of people who are like, hell yeah, get louder, and like no judgment about it, like,
Like
okay.
raise it up.
Yeah, what you want people who are like shine brighter, because that is contagious and I want it to rub off on me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
those are the people that you want around. So
Yeah.
a lot of people buy into a community being successful by like what bags they have or what cars they drive, and that's supposed to look like success, and it's just so
No,
ultimately
it's how you
empty.
feel. It's literally how you. What is your definition of success for you?
I think success is never having to worry about money.
Yeah.
And getting to do all the things that you want to do without worrying about money, and feeling fulfilled every day.
Yeah, I love it.
So that can look like so many other things, but that's why I'm always like, yeah,
everyone's is going to be different, right?
Yeah, it's just I'm sure you've been here too, because you were a consultant in Houston for natural gas. Like you have a lot of money, you're making a lot of money, and something about it is just you don't know until you're there, but you're like, this is not it.
Yeah, totally. And then you're listening inside to that intuition saying, we're going another way, and hopefully the universe really pops in and helps guide you in that new way.
Yeah. And people will be like, why would you quit? You were making so much money. And it's like, I don't know what to tell you. It wasn't making, you can't take it with you.
No, you can't. You find the joy every day. Where can people learn more about you?
Yeah. So I would check out my podcast, Sales is Not a Dirty Word, specifically the episode about how to sell like a natural. And it really lays the foundation for my approach to sales. And you can kind of find out if that resonates with you.
Cool. I love that so much. And then the final question I always close with are, what are 3 pearls of wisdom you'd like to leave with our audience today?
Okay. Never compare your behind the scenes to someone else's feature film.
Yeah.
I've seen all kinds of like successful people and businesses. It's all a shit show behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And the person singing the same thing as us. Why is anyone listening to me? How am I selling? Like, what's all the same thoughts? I would say there is no good and bad or right or wrong. There's effective and ineffective. So really take the judgment out of it, please. And then Another one that's like sales related is that quantity is an excuse for not having quality.
Mm, interesting. Interesting. And slow down and just build really quality relationships and have quality conversations and not just churn, churn, churn.
Not that numbers. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Well, Aleasha, this has been fun. Thank you so much for sharing all your good wisdom, sharing your advice, sharing your, just all the things that you are putting out into the world. I'm so glad to know you, and thank you for joining us today.
I feel the same way, Cami. Thank you so much for having me.